Hello, I'm Michael Topham, technical writer for digital photo, and welcome along to this second masterclass video lesson that's going to be looking at the third tab along in the Camera Raw interface, which is the Detail tab. It's named the Detail tab as there's 6 different sliders on offer to control the detail within our RAW files, 4 of which control sharpening and the other 2 controlling noise reduction. The image we're going to be using as an example in this video is named rally.dng, which is appropriately placed on the CD for you to use and try out. With the image opened in Camera Raw, we're currently looking at the Basic tab, which we studied in detail in the previous masterclass video. The quickest way of getting to the Detail tab from the Basic tab is to use the shortcut Ctrl-Alt and 3. When you want to access any of the other tabs inside Camera Raw, all you need to change in the shortcut is the numerical value. So say we want to go on and access the split toning tab, we could just hit Ctrl-Alt and 5, but we want to look at the Detail tab, so we're just going to hit Ctrl-Alt and 3 again. So now we've taken a look at those shortcuts, let's take a look at the Detail tab. We can see that Camera Raw automatically applies a little sharpening to all of our RAW files with these default settings. The amount is set to 25, the radius is set to 1.0, the detail is set to 25, and the masking is set to 0. Under the noise reduction heading, luminance is set to 0 and colour is set to 25. When we're applying sharpening in Camera Raw, you have to be zoomed into 100% or more to view any of the changes that we make in the Detail tab, and this is shown in a little message towards the bottom. Let's zoom into 100% by going down to the bottom left of the Raw interface and selecting 100%, and we're going to move through the image using the hand tool, just so we can clearly see the front of this car. So then, moving across and taking a look at the amount slider, which is the first one we come to in the Detail tab, this is pretty much like a volume control, which allows us to increase the amount of overall sharpening in the RAW file. It can be set anywhere between 0 and 150, and taking hold of this slider and dragging it from its default setting of 25 to 100 shows that the image is getting very slightly sharper. Now, for most cases, you won't really want to go too far past the value of 100, as over-sharpening an image can do more harm than good. To get a clearer view of how the amount slider is sharpening your image, you can hold down the Alt key at the same time as dragging the amount slider, and this will give you a view of the RAW file in grayscale. For this particular image, we're going to set the sharpening amount to 100, but you may find with other images you need to push the amount slider just that little bit further past 100, especially if you're going to be increasing the masking a little bit later on. The next slider down in the Detail tab is the Radius slider, which works and operates just like the Radius slider when we're sharpening images in Photoshop with the Unsharp Mask filter. We tend to use the Radius slider to control the width of any halos around the edges of our subjects, and general practice is to use a very small radius to pick out the finer details in an image. Using a high radius setting above 1.0 can overemphasize any of the fine details and edges in your shots. Like when we were using the amount slider, we can also hold down Alt to view the RAW file in grayscale when we're adjusting the radius. Dragging the radius over to the right to a value of 3.0 shows that we've got a rather severe halo around the roof of the car, and we want to keep halos around our subject to a minimum, so we're going to set this to a value of 0.7. The next 2 sliders to look at are the Detail and Masking sliders. The Detail slider is used to increase the amount of sharpening in the RAW file without generating any of those noticeable halos around the edges of our subjects. So in other words, it basically restrains the halos for better sharpening results. To view an isolated grayscale preview of this sharpening effect, we can hold down Alt again and move the slider left and right. When you're using the Detail slider, you'll want to watch out that you don't overemphasize the noise in your image, and by going all the way over to a value of 100, we can see here we're making the noise very noticeable, especially in the windscreen area. For images that have very soft edges, such as portraits for example, low detail settings of around 15 to 30 are usually best, preventing any skin tones becoming too noisy. Images with lots of fine detail, like the front of this rally car for example, generally need a slightly higher value, so we're going to keep it set to 50. The final sharpening control is the masking slider, which is used to protect any flat tones in our raw files from being over sharpened. With the masking set to 0, no masking is applied to the sharpening effect. Holding Alt and dragging this slider over to the right, you'll gradually begin to see the black areas showing through. Now these black areas indicate where no sharpening is being applied, and in contrast, the white areas reveal where the sharpening is being applied. So in this example, we don't want the sharpening effect to be overly strong in the windscreen area, so we want this to show as black, and all of these white areas indicate where the sharpening will take place. We're going to leave our masking set to a value of 40, and then I'm going to release Alt to see the colour image. To check your sharpening work quickly, you can use that preview shortcut again that we used in the first video, which is the letter P. Hitting the letter P a few times to turn on and off the preview, you should be able to see there that we've just sharpened the image very slightly, and it's looking better for the work that we've carried out in the Detailed tab. The noise reduction sliders found below are very straightforward to use, and are really handy when we want to remove digital noise artifacts from high ISO images. The two different aspects of noise, grayscale noise and colour noise, can both be controlled with these two sliders. The luminance slider is designed to reduce grayscale noise, and the colour slider is meant to reduce colour noise. Now in this image, we're going to leave the colour well alone, but taking hold of the luminance slider and dragging this over to the right shows that we're losing a little bit of additional noise in the centre of the image. So drag this from the left and drag this to the right to find the optimum setting. I'm going to keep this set to 55 on this occasion, but if you've got a lot more noise to deal with, you may need to drag this slider further to the right. Like we witnessed in the first masterclass video, you can save any of your settings that you've made in the Detail tab by clicking on this small flyout menu, going down and clicking on Save Settings. So now we've taken a good look at the basic and detailed tabs. Make sure you load up some of your own raw files into Camera Raw to give these sliders and controls a try to see how they can improve your images. I hope you've enjoyed this month's tour of Camera Raw, and I look forward to bringing you more tutorials next month. Bye bye for now.